Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here with another review from Fanboys Forever. And today I'm coming at you with an exclusive look at a brand new Spin Master The Batman product from the new upcoming film. And we're going to be looking at the Batman Batcave Playset. And this is something I've definitely been looking forward to checking out because it's quite different than things Spin Master has come out with in the past. So let's go ahead and have a look at the packaging. First off, you can see that it does include some exclusive figures right there. Of course, we know the Bruce Wayne figure, the unmasked Batman there, with complete with eye makeup and all, is exclusive to this set. But the Penguin, I'm not 100% sure what makes him exclusive, if anything, but it does say exclusive figures, as in more than one. We can also see that they go out of their way to show you, hey, this is how the Batcave looks, with some interesting, almost like concept artwork right there. So it's definitely a different take on the Batcave. You can see that on the side, they show you how the armor goes on, some of the action features. They showcase everything in the box, which is nice because these days I'm so used to things just being in boxes where you can't even see the product. On the side, you just have some more of that cool artwork they're using for the merchandise. You have some cool product shots on the back right there. And I keep getting a kick out of how they keep putting Batman Batcave on everything. That's what it says in the front of the box. That's what it says on the back. So this is Batman Batcave. Batman Beyond-esque bat logo on the top. And in case this helps you, there's the barcode. I ordered mine from GameStop.com. So without further ado, let's get it out of the box. And here we have the Batcave out of the box. Now there's so much to go over here, and we're just going to go through it piece by piece. Now you get everything you see here. I've not taken out anything from the previous things that I bought. That'll come later when I combine some other things like the Batmobile and all of that. But this is exactly what you get out of the box. As you can see, we have kind of like a main stairway kind of thing up here. And it's two-sided, so that's really cool. I think that this will be terrific for anybody's dioramas, especially when it comes to G.I. Joe and things like that. So it's going to have a lot of different uses. Everything you see is modular, like, you know, you can pick this table up or pick this platform up or this workstation, any of that. You can just kind of place where you want to. Right now, I kind of have it in the configuration that it shows on the back of the box. So I think this is kind of what's intended and probably matches what we see in the movie best, even though I've not seen the movie yet. So, you know, maybe you've seen the movie in the future and you know that there's something about this that's horribly inaccurate, but we've just not seen a lot of this yet in a lot of the trailers and things. So I think the best thing to do would be kind of go through it piece by piece on everything we get. Let's start out with the biggest piece of all, which is this giant walkway right here with the two staircases. Getting a better look at this kind of grand staircase area, there's lots of really fun sculpted details on this. In particular, I really like this through here, which is kind of meant to be that sort of granite or stone textural part. And I think that looks really cool underneath kind of the ledge of the stairs. Even things like this brickwork has all kinds of great texture added to it. The stairs look really good. You can see the join in it where it's just been assembled right in the middle, but it almost looks intentional, like that's a part of the design. You can see that here on the back, we have that same great grain on the brick. And fair warning, on the other side of the staircase, there's just not a lot going on in terms of detail. Most of this is just completely smooth plastic, and some of it is copyright info, so it's better to keep it turned around the other way. On the top of the staircase, you can see that you just have some steps leading either way to it. And then there's this trapdoor section right here, which leads us to our first action feature. So you can take Batman here, and he goes down right through it. But especially a slightly heavier figure, like the Penguin, then you have him trying to sneak into the Batcave, and then, it's pretty effective little kind of action gimmick. They aren't held on super securely, and there's no kind of switch you press to make it do that. It just kind of opens up because there's some weight on it. And another funny note about this Batcave, it didn't include any instructions for anything. So yeah, I'm assuming there's no other kind of gimmick here, but it just seems like it just opens up, which is fine. And plus, if you want a figure to stand in this area, you can utilize this front space or this back space. Say, for instance, if I want Batman to stand in that area, I can just utilize the front space, and it's no problem at all. It's only when you move him to the back that he would go like straight through, or one of the panels would give out. It doesn't take much pressure at all. So that's interesting, and I think it's a fun little feature. I could have done without it, just because, you know, I just like the staircase looking cool. I guess you could always kind of glue those together if you wanted to, but Also, they advertised this coming out right here, but honestly, it was kind of hard for me to take it out. And you can see the pegs here are pretty deep in there. It just kind of leaves behind just a little ridge area for you to plug it back into. And I know that it shows on the box like this is supposed to come off right here. I have no idea if that's trying to mimic something that actually happens in the movie or not. I guess we'll know soon enough. I'll know really soon because I was sure to scoop up those tickets to that early screening that they're going to do for IMAX. So that's going to be fun. But yeah, I think that the scale of it is pretty good. Definitely the railings on the staircase would probably be taller, even for a 3 3/4 figure. At least you would assume they would be. So I know it's slightly underscaled, but it's what they had to do, I guess, to get this thing in at the price point. And we'll talk about value here in a little while. You can also see that there's maybe not quite enough room on individual steps to stand Batman. Not without maybe, see what I mean? Not without supporting him maybe some way or another, or like doing some kind of trick posing. So even though it might be slightly underscaled, I think that it would be kind of hard to notice that's underscaled unless you just looked really closely. I think overall, especially in these areas, the figures tend to, I think, look the best in terms of scale. And overall, it's just a really cool diorama piece. Working our way down just by size is this giant vehicle platform. So this is familiar for any fan of Batman. Of course, Batman always has his kind of vehicle platform to where different things are parked on. There's even a little walkway or ramp for things to go up and down. According to the photography and digital renders on the box, this is where the Batcycle is going to go. And you can see it's just kind of hollow at the bottom. So this just sets right here. You can take the bike, it can go right up it, and you can park it right there. Speaking of the bike, this is actually a really, really nice piece. It does look a whole lot like those set photos of the bike that we saw all that time ago, actually years ago now. And I'm also surprised that some of it is indeed painted with some really nice kind of silvery tones that go from like a darker, grittier washed silver to a lighter silver here, and even a gray seat. There is nothing up here on the controls, but I do like the yellow headlight on the front, although it might have looked better as maybe just like some kind of transparent plastic over this. It does mimic this part really well from the actual bike. Just like the Catwoman bike, you're not going to be able to get anything to turn, really. Everything feels locked in, but this does have a really nice mechanism on the bottom of it to kind of act as a kickstand. It can be completely retracted. It's not really going to hold on too well with the kickstand up, so it's a pretty neat little bike. With the kickstand, it makes a really nice display, and it looks really great on the platform right here. And the platform scales well with the figures it includes. You can see that it looks just about right for Bruce right here. And as you can see, the figure actually looks really nice on the bike. Overall, I think it kind of scales out pretty well. And I know he looks a little pinheaded right now, but we'll get into that. And he looks good on the stand. So I think that's about all you can ask for a little motorcycle like this. The main thing is I wish the front wheel would turn a little easier. There's really nothing you can do with it. But I do like the platform. But there's a really big test for this platform, and there's some mixed results. Of course, we have the new Batmobile that Spin Master has released for this scale. Now, it doesn't actually fit completely. You can't get all the wheels on there. It just pretty much sets. That's kind of unfortunate because in my head, like I was imagining it setting perfectly on there and they would have it like measured out just right. That didn't exactly happen. I still think it looks good, and that's definitely how I'm going to have this. Without that platform, they appear to have measured this out almost perfectly to have fit the Batmobile right under it. But the little flame on the turbine there kind of keeps it from coming in very easily. But you can pretty much get it in there. It's just kind of smushed, and it looks really nice just rolling the Batmobile through. It makes a really good kind of archway and entrance for the Batmobile to come into the Batcave. Next up, you get kind of just a diorama piece of the Bat computer. And this has all kinds of neat little details on it. Of course, most of it is accomplished with these stickers that just has completely random computery graphics. There's not really anything to be garnered from these. It's almost just like standby graphics. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if it's just Batman screensavers. I don't know. Maybe he needs that old 3D Maze screensaver on one of them or something. There's a few switches and things that are sculpted into it. A little bit of sculpting around some of the screens and things. On the bottom, they even go to the trouble of having some little pieces of machinery and cords and things. So I think that's nice. And from the back, it actually looks fairly decent with what would appear to be the back of computer monitors and a few little techie details. So I can't complain. But it's a neat little piece. You can see that the screen really dwarfs a standard Batman figure. But the height is exactly right. However, it would have been nice to have maybe gotten some kind of chair to have put Batman in. I think that would have been cool. But still, cool Bat computer. Next up, we have a really interesting kind of diorama piece. And this is kind of Batman's workshop table. This is where he's doing his customizing and tinkering with his suit. And director Matt Reeves has gone on to mention that Batman is just kind of doing all of this himself. Bruce is trying to figure out all of these gadgets and all of this equipment, so he has a lot of money, but it's just basically him and Alfred tinkering with everything, trying to make it. There's a few cool things I want to point out here. For one thing, both the helmet and the chest piece are removable from this and go on the figure, which we'll show in just a moment. He does also have some indications of some things that he's been working on the desk, like batarangs. You do get 2 batarangs in this set. I have one just laying on the desk. And this is really cool. There's actually 2 sculpted gauntlets here that I think are pretty much the same sculpts as the actual figure. And I have taken 2 of the accessories and put them in there. I took one of the batarangs that he includes and stuffed it in that hand. And I took his grappling gun and put it in this hand. So it's just a neat way to display the gadgets and also have it be like he's been working on them. I especially like how, if you remove this helmet, you can see that there's just kind of like a dummy head underneath there. So that's kind of neat. And if you remove this bat armor, which was kind of difficult, there's just a blank chest piece under it, but it's really hard to remove. So you can see from the back that there's really not much to write home about. This is probably the worst looking piece from the back because there's so little going on. But I do think that this was a cool idea, and it actually does seem like a workspace, like Batman's tinkering with his gadgets. So I think that's a terrific little touch to the set, and one of my favorite parts. So looking at Bruce here, let's go ahead and check out the figure. This is probably the biggest draw for the set in terms of an exclusive figure, and it is just this unmasked Batman. So we are seeing different variations of unmasked Batman in other lines, like the McFarlane Toys line, the 7-inch scale, and we're of course seeing Spin Master's own take on this in the 12-inch line. And honestly, for a 4-inch figure, it's not too awful, especially compared to what we've seen even in larger scales. The sculpt itself manages to look quite a bit like Pattinson. There probably went to a little bit of an extreme on some of the black eye makeup, I would say, giving him very much a raccoon eyes look, but I do think that's at least fairly accurate to the movie. Maybe they shouldn't have gone down quite as low, maybe cut it off a little bit more like right here, and it might have been a little bit more accurate. Now the paint is fairly straight on this guy, so I can't complain too much. He is looking a little off to one side ever so slightly, but it's not nearly as bad as what you see like with the McFarlane figures that are looking off to one direction. So I think it does turn out pretty well. Now, he does look a little pin-headed, especially the hair, which should be kind of more flayed out to the side, like it is in the movie, but there's a pretty good reason for that. That's because he has a helmet that can actually be placed on the head. A word of warning, once you get the chest armor in here and you get it out, you'll probably end up warping the tabs on the chest armor. You can see that I've stressed the plastic quite a bit by removing mine, so it's definitely something to be on the lookout for, and it really isn't clasping onto the figure as well as it was before. So that's probably something I'm going to have to heat up and kind of get it back to its former self, so you'll definitely want to watch out for that. Anyway, though, you can put the chest armor on there, and once you have that on there, you can also put the helmet on. And you end up with a pretty serviceable looking Batman figure. Of course, in fairness, if you look at the back, his hair is showing very easily. So it would have been nice if there was like something you plugged in on the back to complete the helmet look. But overall, I really do like the looks of it, and it kind of reminds me of the quick change Bruce Wayne figure from the old Dark Knight collection that I had when I was a kid. He comes with everything you expect from Spin Master, including shoulder hinges and elbow hinges and swivels, and of course the legs can go way up and you can do a split, and there's a swivel up here, there's a swivel at the knee, and there's a hinge, but that's pretty much it. I think it works pretty well. Like I said, I'm surprised at how good the figure does look with the helmet on. It's really not that bad. And I also like the chest armor. It does improve the proportions of the figure quite a bit, I think. once you put it in, I think it looks a lot better like that. So that's pretty cool. It's also worth noting that that chest armor can really improve the proportions on the regular Batman figure, whereas the chest looks a little slight on that. Once you put the chest armor on, it really does bulk up the figure and bring it more in line with what we see from the film, because that armor is fairly bulky from what we've seen in the movie. So although this may be a little extreme, I do like the look of this better than these standard figures, so definitely something that I will probably be keeping on mine. And if you want to, you can do it without the chest armor, but the head looks kind of large like that, so probably not something I'll do. Of course, Batman's not the only figure you get with the set. We also get the Colin Farrell Penguin figure. He has kind of a perturbed expression, we'll say, and some of the thickest eyebrows I have ever seen, probably too thick from what I've seen from posters and things. Definitely that's the thing that I think throws it off the most. It's a very good looking penguin figure though, especially compared to what we've seen from the film, so I think it looks mostly accurate. He just has some striped pants, kind of a lavender colored shirt, and he comes with this very interesting accessory, which is an umbrella that is actually a sword. So I don't know if we'll end up seeing it in the film, probably. And I have no idea if the penguin is ever in the Batcave in the film. Maybe, but the truth is we don't know, and we haven't seen any indication of that in the trailers, but you never know. You can see up here at the top that he's kind of got his hair kind of messy at the top. At the back, you can see he's got his suspenders and more of the pants. Looking at articulation, the head does turn all the way around very easily, just a little bit of down, not much up. You can see that he does have a hinge at the shoulder. It can go all the way around. And then he has a very sort of functional hinge at the elbow. It doesn't do a whole lot, that's it. And he does have a swivel, nothing at the wrist, nothing at the waist, even though you would swear that the sculpt line was a cut. He can do the splits. You can see that he does have a upper thigh. He has a swivel at the knee. He can hinge just a tiny little bit, but not very much, and nothing at the ankles. So he's gymnastic with his kicks anyway. Now the penguin does, to me, look a little large, and I think it has more to do with his hands and kind of just the proportions of his body more than his height. He almost seems to have come from a different line in a way. Now here he is beside a standard Batman, and that's alleviated a little bit there, because this has such a small head due to the mask feature. And here he is alongside the Catwoman I have so far. And of course her features are very slight and her limbs are very slight compared to the gigantic penguin. But I suppose that does give it some variety. He also comes with this interesting accessory, this kind of suitcase. You open it up and you have this funny block of $100 bills. And it's just like a tampograph that they put on a block of sculpted plastic that is hollowed out, so he may want to be talking to his bookie about this money. And here's just a better idea for you of some options for having the Batmobile in there. You can see that this way you can just have the Batmobile facing forward. Even though the tires are hanging off of the ends, it balances really well on that stand. And from this angle, you would never know that the tires aren't on there all the way. So I think that is definitely one cool option. As for me, I can't help but just want to display the thing like this, to where you can see the Batmobile in kind of a 3/4 turn right there, almost as if it's on display in the Batcave. So even though we've covered all of the features of the playset, one of the greatest features is something you can't see right here, and that's the price point. For only $40, you get all of the elements of this playset. Of course, the Batmobile in the background isn't included, but I actually think that's a pretty good bargain. You get a really large diorama type of staircase in the background. For the background, you get a really nice motorcycle. You get a very serviceable set of figures, including the transforming Batman figure, which so far isn't available as a single and may not be. You get some really cool diorama computer pieces and workbench, and there's just all sorts of things in the playset that make it fun, including a couple of action features. Take it or leave it, those don't matter to me as much. So the way that it all costs out is actually fairly reasonable, with each figure being worth about $8 a piece, the motorcycle being worth at least $10, with the remaining $15 or so of the price point going to the giant diorama pieces. I think that's actually pretty decent. However, there were definitely a couple of improvements that could have been made. I do wish that Spin Master had sprung for a platform that was maybe just a little bit bigger, so that the Batmobile's wheels weren't kind of just setting over it and not really on that circular platform. Another element I would have liked to have seen included was maybe rather than the penguin figure, possibly just including an Alfred figure. I think that would have been far more appropriate. And although it's very important for the toy companies to make sure that there's some kind of battle in a box, to have a villain or whatever, I think that most collectors, and I actually think quite a few kids, would have really appreciated getting an Alfred figure, especially with how awesome Alfred looks in this movie. Way to go, Andy Serkis. With my hype for the movie building to a fever pitch, this purchase was pretty much a no-brainer. However, I do wish that maybe there had been an electronic element of some sort to the set. Spin Master previously has been really good about doing this for different playsets. However, I definitely think that they kind of chose scale and variety of diorama pieces along with exclusive figures over such a feature. One thing that I think anybody who is planning on maybe buying the set needs to be aware of is you definitely don't need to buy the basic Penguin figure. That gives a whole lot of value to this set if you just hold off on buying that to make sure that you just get him included with this set for pretty much no additional cost. And just in case you're wondering how this might look with your comic book inspired Spin Master 3 3/4 figures, you can see that the scale works out pretty well. Although everything looks a little large for this Batman, I think that overall it seems to scale fairly well. And here is a look at the playset with the Batmobile, the Catwoman, and her own motorcycle that are not included, but I thought it would be cool to see how everything looked in the set. Although there may not be a whole lot to keep a kid entertained with the set, since this is pretty much just here for display value, and there's only the one trapdoor play feature and the one railing that comes off, and I'm not really sure what the purpose of that was, I still think it's a really cool set that I definitely believe that 3 3/4 collectors will want to get a hold of, if nothing else for that giant staircase and the cool circular platform. I think those are some great diorama pieces, and if you're a big 3 3/4 G.I. Joe collector like me or Boss Fight Studios collector like I am, then I think this is really going to float your boat. For $40, I think it is priced very appropriately. Had it been $50 or above, I would have expected some kind of electronic feature or something to spruce it up a little bit more, but as it stands, there's plenty here to justify the $40. Of course, as I said earlier, I found mine at GameStop.com. Alright friends, I want to thank you all for watching the video today. Of course, be sure to subscribe and like the video if you can. It really helps the algorithm share this one out, and of course helps the channel grow. We're working towards building to 3,000 subscribers, and we really hope that you can be a part of that, and we certainly appreciate all the support that you've given us. And of course, leave a comment down below letting me know what you think of this playset, and if you're as hyped as I am for the new The Batman movie coming out. I can't wait to see it in IMAX. And as always, God bless you and yours, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out.